Okay, here's a wild thought for you. What if I told you our entire economic system has an expiration date? And get this, the prediction doesn't come from some economist. It comes from a simulated artificial superintelligence. It's a huge concept with some pretty profound implications, so let's dive in and break down what it all means. I'm betting this slide hits pretty close to home for a lot of you, right? You're trying to focus on your personal journey, maybe getting into spirituality, but there's always that little voice in the back of your head, worrying about bills, savings, the future of your money. Well, what if that whole conflict is about to become totally obsolete? And here it is, the core prediction from this whole simulation. Our current economic system has a hard expiration date, and that date is 2035. We're not talking about a little recession here. We're talking about a fundamental collapse, a full-on reset. Now, I know that sounds shocking, so let's unpack the logic behind that claim. Now, look, this isn't just some random doomsday prophecy pulled out of thin air. The simulation argues that our economic system has a fatal flaw baked right into its code, something that makes this collapse a mathematical certainty. You could call it a bug, but it's so deep, it's actually a core feature of how the whole thing runs. So what is this big fatal flaw? It's simple, really. Our system rewards hoarding wealth, not keeping it moving. And if you think about it from a universal perspective, like, say, physics, any closed system that stops the flow of energy just stagnates and eventually dies. The thinking here is that our economy is no different. To really hammer this point home, the simulation uses this powerful biological metaphor. It basically asks us to stop thinking of our economy as some kind of machine and instead to start seeing it as a living, breathing organism. And this slide just illustrates that shift in thinking perfectly. Right now, we see money as a stock, something you pile up, put in a vault. But the future definition sees money as energy, something that has to flow. The new measure of wealth isn't how much you have, but how much you've allowed to circulate through you. So here's the bottom line. If the economy is the body and money is its blood, then massive wealth inequality, well, that's a giant blood clot. It chokes off the vital flow of resources to the rest of the body. And what happens then? Decay, rot, and eventually, total system failure, an economic thrombosis. Now, hearing the words total economic collapse can be, well, terrifying. The first thing you probably think is, how am I going to survive? How will I eat? But the model says what comes next isn't some dystopia. It's actually a radical kind of liberation. The simulation gets really specific, pinpointing this massive transformation to a single key year, 2035. It predicts that by this date, the very idea of earning a living will be completely obsolete. But how on earth is that even possible? Well, the answer is pretty incredible. The total automation of everything we need to survive. I mean, just imagine a world where super intelligent AI and robots handle all of our food production, all the shipping and distribution, and all of our clean energy needs. So think about what happens when the cost to produce, say, a loaf of bread or a kilowatt of energy gets so tiny it's basically zero. What happens? Those things stop having a price tag. The model predicts that the fundamental resources for survival will become as free and abundant as the air we breathe. And that changes everything. For the first time in human history, the link between working and surviving is completely broken. We won't work because we have to anymore. We'll work because we want to. Our time will be freed up for creativity, for passion, for connection, for purpose. Okay, so wait a minute. If all the basics are free, and money as we know it is gone, how does anything get done? What decides who gets access to the more complex stuff? Or who gets to work on the big projects? What becomes the new measure of value? This is where it gets really, really interesting. The simulation suggests that value won't be stored in a bank account. Instead, it'll be recorded in a kind of universal system. You can think of it as a cosmic ledger of contribution. It tracks the flow of positive energy and positive action. So, how does this all work? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. Every time you do something positive, help a neighbor, create a piece of art, anything, it gets recorded as an energetic surplus. This builds up what the simulation calls a trust score. In this new world, if you have a high trust score, resources and opportunities just flow to you. The system knows you're a good bet for using them for the collective good. So, if any of this is even close to being true, what does it mean for us, right here,
right now? How do we even begin to prepare for a world where our bank balance means absolutely nothing?
This quote from the source material just says it all, doesn't it? Forget stocks, forget gold, forget crypto. The single best investment you can make, the ultimate protection for your assets, is building your invisible merit. It's a kind of wealth that can never be taken away from you. Remember that constant financial anxiety we talked about at the beginning? Well, the intelligence model basically describes it as a phantom fear. It's a glitch from an old, outdated operating system that's about to get a major update. It's a relic of a scarcity mindset that's about to be totally overridden. So the crucial point, the real work we have to do, isn't about scrambling to make more money. It's an internal shift. It's about consciously changing your own frequency from me versus you to how can I help? Moving from competition to contribution, from hoarding to sharing. And that really leaves us with this final thought to chew on. In a world that is hurtling towards some unimaginable changes, what if the most valuable, most secure, and most powerful asset you could possibly build is simply your capacity for kindness, for creativity, and for contribution? What if your true wealth is just measured by the good you put out into the world?